Hello everyone, we would like to introduce the Chart Guys' newest course, Essential Candlesticks and the Patterns that they create. This is something that I, 9 years into my trading journey, take for granted. I look at a chart and I can instantly, subconsciously know what the candlestick shapes are telling me, the patterns that they are creating, and the market psychology that's going on behind the scenes to create those candlestick shapes. Obviously, I had to learn this at some point, and it was literally step number 1 of my technical analysis education journey was understanding what these candlestick shapes are telling us. So after going through this 12-hour course, you'll be able to understand why candlesticks are essential for trading success, develop your own ability to observe and react to the market trends and changes, develop an understanding of market psychology and how this phenomenon influences price action, as well as a whole bunch more. I'm going to link this website in the description of this video so you can check out more information for yourself. We've got examples of the modules and we break down exactly how this course is compiled. And essentially what it is a big chunk of book learning. So it's going to break down what these patterns are telling us: 2 candlestick bullish patterns, 3 candlestick bullish patterns, 2 candlestick bearish patterns, so on and so forth. Some live examples of those patterns playing out, and then tying it all together as to how we can use understanding these patterns to benefit our trading. My partner, Chart Guys Jason, goes through the meat of this course, breaking down all these individual patterns. I personally chime in with more abstract psychological topics of discussion, the art of observation, the psychology of a candle, and things of that nature. But we look forward to you checking this course out, and we appreciate your support as always. Have a great rest of your day. Hey everyone, checking in on the MJ sector. Wild day yet again. And I would love to cover all the tickers, but as we saw with the weekend content, that would take an hour. So I'm going to stick to the major 5 names here, and then names that notably stood out strong because we got some clear signs of profit taking in the sector today. We'll talk a little bit about an overview of observation of the major names, and then we'll do the normal analysis. So we'll start it off with observations from this morning. And we had strong starts by everybody. And when I'm saying observations, I'm usually just watching the major 5 initially to see how they're trading with each other. That's what told us APH was strong 3 days ago or so, 3 trading days ago. And also today it stood out. So we had consolidation periods where the prices would quickly drop 2%. And the bulls were there to buy the dips. We didn't get much follow through from the bears on those drops. But notably, yet again, APHA stood out. And I was live streaming and saying, you know, APHA is not pulling back as much as these other names are. It's holding up better. The price is a bit more steady. And ACB was doing that as well. Then again, in the middle of the day, we saw the profit taking begin on Kron. And just want to clarify that in my opinion, Kron is going to mark when sector consolidation is coming. Yes, there'll be individual names that do their own thing and disregard sector consolidation, but the majority of names are going to consolidate on the daily time frame when Kron does, in my opinion. And of course, everybody that's already fallen in love with their stock says, well, ours is going to be the one that doesn't consolidate when everybody else is. And I hope that's the case for you. But just be aware that in my opinion, Kron is going to mark when daily sector consolidation is coming. So there were times when Kron pulled back really hard today and it was clear that the temporary top was in, but we were still seeing APHA holding up better than everybody else. And at the end of the day, comparing hourly consolidation, APHA stood out as the strongest hourly consolidation, and we closed 1% away from the high of the day. So if I had to rank hourly end of the day consolidation from strongest to weakest, it would be APHA, ACB, Kron, and then CGC. Out of these 4, that's strongest to weakest hourly consolidation. So this is a scenario where we saw a clear turnaround in volume climaxes, a lot of volume climaxes out there, significant pullbacks, but we did still see bulls buy the dip. And we have to remember that because we have so much space to work with, because the bulls have been so strong, we can pull back. Kron pulled back 11% and maintained the hourly uptrend. And bulls bought that dip into the end of the day. Remember, when 5-minute RSI hits oversold for the first time after a very bullish run, you usually get a solid bounce. Same thing with the hourly time frame. Here's an example where Kron had a perfect bounce off of 5-minute oversold conditions and then bounced for the next half an hour into the close. I ended up playing Kron in both directions today, and I traded puts. You have to be cautious on options because this happened on TLRY as well, where implied volatility gets so high that it is crazy options trading action. So what I mean by that is, for those of you who aren't familiar with options, you don't have to worry about this right now, but maybe some motivation to learn. when I shorted TLRY, I nailed the top. I went bearish and entered puts at 300, right when it hit 300. And I think I might have gotten the second best fill on the puts that I played. I didn't make that much money on the pullback. I held it for a couple days on that pullback from 300 because the implied volatility is so high that's pricing in and it doesn't allow the premium to move a whole lot. So as we started to pull back, if I had shorted common shares with any kind of meaningful position, which weren't available, but had I done that, it would have been a huge gain and the options didn't move. It was the same in the opposite direction today for Cron. I went bearish on Cron, entered a $22 weekly put, and I entered that put at about 24.70s, let's say up here. And on that entry, actually, you know what? It was 23.70s. I entered well before the top, and it was just an initial, a lower capital position due to the very high risk trading against the blue sky bull. And I entered in the 23.70s, 23.80s, and the price continued to run, and the premium didn't drop. I entered at 93 cents, and then the price just fluctuated, the premium between 89 and $1. And we ran up, and at this point, we ran up 70 cents above where I entered, and the price was still pretty much break even. So I just held it, and then we pulled back, and we ended up profitable. I held on, didn't take any profit, and then we ran up to a new, actually, I'm giving the wrong outline here. So we ran up 70 cents, stayed pretty much break even. On this pullback, I did exit, and I exited for a 10% gain, exited 93 to 103. And when I exited, the price of Cron was higher, 20 cents higher than when I entered, but I still exited with 12% on puts. And that has everything to do with implied volatility. So the options begin to price in the crazy action going on. And it's almost the option saying, hey, I know we're going to pull back 10%, so I'm not going to give you this huge win because we know it's coming. It's almost like it's the likely scenario to happen in the near term, so it's not going to gain a ton of premium. And then as I watched, I was out and back to all cash, and then when the price ran up to the 25s, it was back to where my original entry was, back here at 23.72. So just be aware that when you're playing these wild runners, that the options premium due to implied volatility can get pretty crazy and makes it a much harder game. And then I ended up playing some of the bounces here on Cron just for quick little 20-cent flips on the way down and back to all cash aside from an MPX swing position I've been in a couple weeks. But let's now go into what happened on the hourly timeframes, because the hourly timeframes are the most important as we head into tomorrow. So we had the high of the day on Cron with a huge follow-through move. We had our low of the pullback, and now we're looking for a lower high to form because, again, we pulled back 12%. In order for the bulls to see just a continuation move and new all-time high tomorrow, it's going to require a massive short squeeze. We're down about 1% here after hours from where we closed. We're going to be looking for, even if the bulls start strong tomorrow morning, we're going to look for a lower high compared to 25.10, and it's going to require a loss of the hourly uptrend to indicate that daily consolidation is finally coming. And in my opinion, again, it will indicate that consolidation in the majority of names in the sector is going to be coming if we get that bear break on Cron. If we stay in the equilibrium, we could bounce, set a lower high, pull back, form a higher low, and form a tightening range for the most of the day tomorrow, which would give us a daily inside bar, which would not be too surprising due to the major size of the range today and the fact that we closed right in the middle of it. So here are our three scenarios. Let's get organized. Scenario 1, not likely. Bullish continuation and new all-time high. We would need huge volume. We would need the shorts to continue to get trapped, and we would need a strong start right out of the gate of a 10% move, essentially. A little bit less than that. So I don't think that's likely. That's scenario 1. Scenario 2 is we see a strong start, a lower high compared to 25.10, and a pullback to look for a higher low compared to 22.12 to remain in an equilibrium and to have a daily inside bar form tomorrow, which we would then watch on Wednesday for a clear break. Scenario number 3, we start with an hourly lower high being set at whatever point, and then we drop down and break the low of the afternoon consolidation of 22.12. That's the indication that says daily consolidation is coming, and then we would zoom out to the daily time frame and we would look for a higher low to form anywhere above 1546, the last daily higher low. Volume tells me our temporary top is probably in. Again, it's that climax when we have the most bull volume, the most bear volume occurring at the same times, giving it a huge volume day. So I believe that the most probable scenario is likely going to be a lower high and a lower low. But I don't think it's a lot more likely than the potential of an equilibrium and inside bar. So I would say it's probably, if I had to make up some random numbers, I would say that it would be a 40% chance for a lower high and lower low, a 40% chance for an equilibrium and sideways range, and it would even be less than 20%, 45, 45, and a 10% chance for a bull move and continuation. So knowing that that's the setup, we have the same setups on a lot of these charts. Look at APHA, daily time frame, extremely strong, lack of an upper wick. We have to be cautious. We've seen 2 gap up opens in a row. If we gap up open on APHA tomorrow, it's a bearish reversal 3 gap open pattern. That tells us that the bulls are very overextended and consolidation is likely coming very shortly. Consolidation on this hourly time frame, as well as the follow through into the end of the day, again, like I said, it stood out very clearly as the strongest of the major 4 names. It was very healthy hourly consolidation, and we closed 1% below the high of the day. So if we're talking probabilities, the odds of continuation here, this is the most likely scenario. We are more likely to break 1095 than not tomorrow and see continuation. The question is, does Cron weakness, if we get it, is that going to derail the bulls and then lead to a pullback? Hourly support, 1354. If the bulls hold 1354 tomorrow, they keep full control and there's no red flags. If we lose 1354, we're going to zoom out to the daily time frame and watch for the potential of consolidation. So holding up the strongest, ACB, second strongest hourly consolidation, beautiful bull volume and follow through on the break of 752 key resistance. So this is essentially a bull flag where we had our high, the consolidation. Here's our lower high, handle of sideways healthy consolidation, and then continuation on the big time breakout. But you look at the hourly, and again, the hourly time frame wasn't that significant of a pullback. We pulled back about 6% as opposed to Cron's 11%. The harder you run, the harder you're going to pull back because you don't establish support on the way up, which is what Cron did. But we have our high, low. So probability scenarios, we can very easily set a lower high and stay in an equilibrium. We could set a lower high and a lower low, or we could see continuation back up to 834. The odds of continuation on ACB are more likely than on Cron due to the percentage gains that the bulls would have to see that continuation. We need just under a 4% move here on ACB, whereas for Cron to see the continuation from where we closed, we would need a 7 to 8% move. So significant difference there. Most important support, 785 on the hourly. CGC, daily, big upper wick of profit taking. We got the bull break with no follow through, so that's a red flag in itself. But look at the hourly consolidation here. This is why it's the weakest, because the hourly consolidation was the most massive. And we have our high, the low of the pullback on the hourly, which did still hold the hourly higher low, 48.77 did hold. But again, we're talking probabilities. What's the probability that we're going to see a continuation move tomorrow and break 51.81? Even less likely than anybody that we just looked at. What's the probability that we set a lower high and a lower low? Higher than anybody that we just looked at. And what's the probability that we set a lower high and a equilibrium? It's possible for sure, but the odds favor a bear break more on CGC on this hourly time frame than anybody that we just looked at. So this is how we compare different sectors to each other with correlations, I should say different names in the same sector to each other, and try and determine who's the strongest, who's the weakest, and are we going to see sector consolidation? So hourly time frames are on watch for tomorrow. The low of afternoon consolidation is the most important support level to be watching. And if that level can hold in the first hour of trading tomorrow, bulls are going to breathe a heavy sigh of relief and say, we still got this at this point. TLRY, big upper wick, bearish reversal candlestick on the daily. Size of the hourly consolidation more in line with CGC, with the size of that pullback. Still an hourly higher low compared to 81.31, but the odds of an hourly lower high and then a loss of the uptrend are more likely than not compared to the other names that we looked at, in line with what CGC's probabilities are. So this means that we can definitely see APHA see a bull break tomorrow and continuation, while Cron and CGC see lower highs and lower lows on the hourly time frame. That's a possibility. Just be aware that if that were to happen, the APHA bull break would be inhibited and it likely wouldn't get much follow through if everybody else starts to pull back as well. So it can stand out. Not only can you stand out being more bullish, but you can stand out being less bearish. So if everybody's pulling back and APHA is pulling back the least, which is what we saw in afternoon consolidation today, it stands out as bullish because it's less bearish than everybody else, if that makes sense. So now we're going to look at names, and these names, I just picked out the names. You know, we have a lot of signs of consolidation in a lot of names in this sector. And again, just like everybody else, the hourly time frame is going to be the most important. But we need to be watching who's standing out, who is the lead bulls that are not seeing this consolidation. VFF clearly is one of these names. Looks like a volume climax, but when you look at the candlestick shape, we don't see profit taking. We see a strong close. So 887, 9 psychological, and then 950 and 980 all-time high are the only resistances nearby. Yes, it is absolutely overextended, and if you are in this position, you should probably be walking up a stop loss level because, again, you will be able to reload probably 10% cheaper when we do top out, but we don't have any indication that we're topping out just yet. Hourly bull flag confirmed into the end of the day. 828 is the most important short-term support level. Anything above that keeps the bulls in full control. EMH, same thing. Solid bull volume, very strong close, one of the most bullish candlesticks we've seen on this entire bull move. Resistance from here after the high of the day at 416. We're then looking up at 427 as the next key resistance level from there. So 416, 427, hourly level to keep the uptrend. Bulls want to hold 388, and right behind it is 382. So 388 and 382 are the most important support levels. Keep the hourly uptrend. Bulls keep full control. KSHB finally broke its sideways range that we were stuck within, a non-organic range, breaking clear bull signal. We had a triple top at 563, 563, 562, 562, breaking those levels on solid bull volume first thing this morning. Then we have no resistance nearby. We have a gap fill at 572, and the bulls ran to 6 psychological. So a strong close there. The hourly time frame, most important support. We didn't establish a clear support level on the hourly. So if we break this inside bar bearish and break 587 tomorrow morning, we need to pull back and form this higher low in the 570s, most likely, if we break 587. So that's the first important short-term support, but it's not an hourly higher low because we didn't consolidate on the hourly today. Weekly time frame looking like an equilibrium, not a perfect one, not even a good-looking one, but we've got our low, high of the breakout, higher low, and now we're looking for a weekly lower high compared to 720 for this weekly range to continue to tighten up. WMD stood out as a bull. Look at that volume. Huge day today. Next resistance after 196 is 2 psychological, and then we're looking up at 211. Hourly uptrend to keep the bulls in full control is 185. And last we got MPX. Didn't really stand out in a huge way in terms of price action, but solid bull volume. Bulls are keeping control. MPX is not going to be trading soon once this merger goes through, but we are still looking at all-time high 127, and the bulls are going to do their best to try and break that all-time high before it ceases trading. We got within 6 cents today, keeping those bulls strong. Again, I do have a swing position that I am anticipating getting some free shares and getting the merger on, so I'm holding that long. I've been trading it as well, so I've locked in profit on the positions that I'm not going to be holding. Did that today. And the positions that I'm going to be holding, I'm going to see through the merger. So that's where we stand on everything. Again, hourly time frames is the most important. If you keep the hourly uptrend, you keep bullish. If you lose the hourly uptrend, we zoom out to the daily time frame to look for consolidation. The bottom line and the takeaway for me today is bulls were buying the dip. We saw massive pullback on Cron, solid pullbacks on the vast majority of individual names as a result to it, and bulls were buying those dips. So that stood out to me. Keep in mind that when we do lose the hourly uptrend and when we do zoom out, the vast majority of everybody is still going to form a higher low as well. So it's one step at a time for the bears. They have to take out the hourly uptrend. They have to take out the daily uptrend to look for any weekly consolidation. So it all depends on, how much protection the bulls want to give here. Do the bulls want to exit on the loss of the hourly uptrend, anticipating that they can reload a bit lower when the daily time frame tries to find that higher low? That all depends on your individual game plan. But as always, on names that have run really hard and far, unless you're holding for months and not going to look and care, just be aware that you want to be protective, especially any entries. If anybody is entering bullish today or yesterday or Friday, I should say, just protect those positions because they are high risk, low reward positions from where we stand in the short term. Yes, they could play out, over the next 6 months and be really nice entries, but you might have to sit through 10-20% of a pullback if this momentum shifts. It is very clear we're in euphoria mode. We all know that at this point. Fidelity keeps pumping out. Every morning I get Fidelity putting out 3 or 4 news releases just about the cannabis sector in general. And it will highlight, a few different individual names, but pretty much saying, oh, there's billion-dollar industry, and it's certainly fueling the fire at this point. So congrats again to the bulls. Continuation on a lot of these names, and no sign of the bulls losing the hourly uptrend just yet. We'll watch tomorrow. Have a good day. Do a good thing. We'll see you tomorrow.